The U.S. State Department has officially designated Venezuela's so-called De los Soles cartel as a foreign terrorist organization. Washington says it's headed by President Nicolas Maduro. The move comes as U.S. President Donald Trump steps up action against drug trafficking into the U.S. Washington's been building up its military presence in the Caribbean in recent weeks, striking several alleged drug boats, killing more than 80 people. Trump says he hasn't ruled out military action against Venezuela. Our White House correspondent Kimberly Halkett joins us now from Washington, D.C. So, Kimberly, when you designate a head of state as the leader of a terrorist organization, what does that mean for relations with Venezuela now?
Well, it means that there is an escalation and a heightened risk that Venezuela and the United States could come into some sort of form of military conflict. The bottom line is that Venezuela denies that Nicolas Maduro, the country's president, is heading up a cartel, and the allegation is this is simply the United States trying to inflict regime change in a sovereign country. The United States, for its part, as you point out, has been escalating in terms of its attacks in September on boats that are alleged to be drug trafficking into the United States, which the United States says is responsible for significant violence in addition in the United States. But you have to remember, too, that the U.S. has also been doing a military buildup in the waters around Venezuela in the form of deploying a carrier strike group, the USS Gerald Ford. That would be special operations, Marines, as helicopters. So this is significant. Now, for his part, the U.S. president has stopped short of launching any sort of ground invasion into Venezuela. But again, the fear is that there could be, Sammy, some sort of miscalculation on the part of either side, the United States or Venezuela, which has had its own military buildup, and this could lead to full-blown war.
Could lead to full-blown war. But Donald Trump prides himself as the deal maker, right? What is the strategy? Can we see a strategy here from the White House other than war?
Well, what we've seen so far, and what many military analysts in the United States are speculating, is that this won't get to a direct confrontation, but will remain sort of in the shadows, with the U.S. Kind of continuing its pressure campaign, whether it's through sanctions economically or in intimidation tactics, like having the military presence sort of lurking in the waters of the Caribbean. What we do know, though, is that the U.S. president has not ruled out any sort of escalation and has really kept the leadership in Venezuela guessing. And so this may be the tactic, in the hopes that this could bring about the change the United States seems to be looking for, but which the Venezuelan government so far is resistant to.
And that's Kimberly Halkett for us from outside the White House. Ernesto Castaneda, he's the director of the Center for Latin American and Latino Studies at the American University. Good to have you with us. So first of all, it's quite a serious and unusual step to designate another head of state as the head of a drug trafficking terrorist organization. Is this the preparation for a personal targeting of Maduro by the U.S.?
Thank you, Sammy. Yes, this is indeed a very serious the nomination that the United States government is doing. First, by denominating this Cartel de los Soles, or the Cartel of the Suns, as a terrorist organization, which is exaggerated and unnecessary. And second, to link the president of Venezuela as the head of such cartel, which there's not enough evidence to say so. There may be corruption, there may be some generals that may be benefiting from drug trafficking, but it's not clear at all that Los Soles is an arm of the government. So therefore, this is indeed another way to attack the political regime of Maduro at a time that we see an escalation and a preparation of forces around Venezuelan coasts.
Is there a real cartel de los Soles? I mean, in the 90s, Venezuelans started using this term as a sort of reference to figures of authority in the military or the security who they suspected were benefiting from the drug trafficking. But is there a real organization with a hierarchy that you can put on a banned list?
It doesn't seem so. I think this is more opportunism for a number of reasons. Indeed, the Venezuelan economy is in a very bad situation. There are stretched for cash. The U.S. has difficulty the export of oil. So therefore, in the border between Colombia and Venezuela, some former members of armed groups of Colombia may be acting in Venezuela, and there may be some drug production happening there. And then the question is whether some of the military in Venezuela are benefiting from that. But what is clear is that the so-called Cartel de los Soles is not at all the largest cartel in the world, if they actually exist as such. And their the destination of their drugs is also unclear that it's reaching the U.S. It's probably more for the Caribbean region, maybe some of it reaching Spain, but it's not the number one threat for the U.S. in military terms, in geopolitical terms, or even in public health.
So, Ernesto, if it's not the number one threat, and we're not even sure if it actually functions as a hierarchical existing cartel, the Americans don't know this? Or is there another reason why? I mean, why would you go to the extent of putting, targeting something like this and making it out as if it's an organization with the head of state as the head of it? Is all of this lost on the Americans who have the CIA and the FBI at their disposal?
Even the U.S. intelligence has denied in the past and has testified in Congress that there's not a direct link connecting Cartel de los Soles with the president. So the intelligence community is not agreeing with this designation coming from the State Department, probably indeed for political reasons. It's up to the State Department who they determine and how they can do so in a unilateral fashion without confirming with the U.S. or anything else. We have precedents of this recently with Colombia, also declaring him a persona non grata financially and connecting him to drug trafficking without any evidence. And more recently, we saw this with the Tren de Aragua, another gang arising from Venezuela that they were saying was acting in the U.S., which is not true. So one of the answers of why to do this is that Stephen Miller in the U.S. has been trying to name these cartels as terrorist organizations so that they can say that Venezuelans in the U.S. who are asking for asylum, who are here temporarily, so that they can be deported as enemies of the state. So that would be one of the reasons to do this. Another one would be indeed to justify a possible intervention in Venezuela and to try to further legitimize
on that point, Ernesto, of the possibility
world.
of a military intervention, do you think Donald Trump really wants a war with Venezuela? Is that the direction you think the White House is heading, or is this just a pressure tactic to work out some kind of deal down the road? I mean, we've seen him do this in other scenarios, right?
Right. We don't really know what are the intentions of Trump. Indeed, putting pressure, moving all these military elements to the Caribbean would be a way to put pressure. But there's no indication that Maduro is ready to leave power and to resign. So this is not working. And if there was such an invasion, first of all, it's very unpopular in the U.S., nobody is claiming for this besides a few people close to the president. It would create a lot of instability in Venezuela, with a lot of people probably leaving the country too. And also, if the U.S. says that there's a narco regime in Venezuela, well, they should then give asylum to all Venezuelans escaping this situation in the U.S. rather than taking away their immigration status. So it's indeed a tense situation that will destabilize things further in Venezuela, but also in Latin America, because the elites are getting divided. Some improv intervention, most of them and most of the population against.
It's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much, Ernesto Castaneda, Director of the Center for Latin America and Latino Studies at the American University.
Thank you, Sammy.
Don't miss out. Get the full picture. Subscribe to Al Jazeera for reliable news and expert insights. Like, share, stay ahead.